Chunlei, who was considered important by his tribe, believed that his power was a gift from God. When he heard about the arrival of someone with a strange power, he saw it as an opportunity to grow stronger. With the full support of the tribal elders, who entrusted him with the future of their people, he decided to hunt down this person. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi and Heimei were in hiding. Heimei, recognizing someone familiar, felt awkward when she noticed Zhang Yi's reaction. She assumed he was interested in an older woman, but Zhang Yi quickly clarified that Heimei had come to see her uncle, not him. Concerned about her uncle's condition, Zhang Yi reassured her that he was recovering faster than expected. He had previously asked Yokier for sedatives but now believed that Pamanyu was ready to be freed. Understanding the importance of maintaining a good relationship with Pamanyu, Zhang Yi approached him. Pamanyu, now fully recovered, was grateful for being saved. He appeared healthier and even more handsome than before. Feeling stronger, he tested his newfound power by pressing down on his bed, nearly breaking it. Zhang Yi urged him to calm down and explained that his transformation was like a tadpole evolving into a frog. Demonstrating his own abilities, Zhang Yi also revealed the reason behind their abundant food supplies. However, Pamanyu, overwhelmed by excitement, accidentally smashed his bed. Reassured by Zhang Yi, he acknowledged that he just needed time to adjust. Zhang Yi then introduced someone to Pamanyu, who greeted them with a warm smile. He explained that this house would be their shared residence for now while he and Yokier moved elsewhere. As a parting gift, Zhang Yi presented Pamanyu with a snowmobile to help him gather food. At first, Pamanyu hesitated, considering it too valuable, but after seeing Zhang Yi's advanced snow vehicle, he accepted it. Those witnessing the moment were shocked, realizing just how powerful and resourceful Zhang Yi truly was. Zhang Yi and Yokier then set off towards their new home. During the journey, Yokier asked about their new residence. Zhang Yi described it as spacious and comfortable, far better than their previous apartment. He also mentioned that there were others living there to help with daily tasks, which initially made Yokier jealous. But after Zhang Yi reassured her that she was the only one in his heart, she relaxed and felt happy again. As they traveled, a snowstorm turned into a raging tornado. Reacting quickly, Zhang Yi used his abilities to absorb the first tornado into another dimension. However, a second tornado appeared, making him realize that someone with special powers was behind it. Sensing the threat, he decided to turn back and avoid direct confrontation. But the blizzards kept intensifying, and Zhang Yi continued absorbing each tornado into his storage space. Meanwhile, Chunlei, the one responsible for the attacks, was growing exhausted. Despite claiming he could continue, it was clear he needed time to recover. His group waited, observing their enemy's strength. Zhang Yi, noticing his opponent's fatigue, stopped his vehicle and retrieved a rifle from his storage. He knew this was the perfect moment to strike back. Stepping out of the car, he aimed towards a pile of snow and fired, successfully injuring one of his enemies. At his feet, only 2 people remained. Chunlei was bewildered. How had Zhang Yi managed to find them despite their careful hiding? But Zhang Yi kept firing relentlessly. Desperate, Chunlei tried to attack again with another tornado, but Zhang Yi neutralized it effortlessly. No matter how much Chunlei pushed himself, his attacks were useless. Zhang Yi's overwhelming strength left his opponents in stunned silence. However, Zhang Yi realized that continuing the battle there could put Yokier in danger. Instead, he challenged them to chase him, declaring that their next fight would take place on his territory. With that, Zhang Yi returned to his vehicle. Yokier quickly calmed down, though she briefly asked if Zhang Yi had killed all their enemies. Zhang Yi explained that they were still alive, which meant there was a chance for revenge in the future. Yokier was already familiar with Zhang Yi's ways, so this didn't surprise her. They continued their journey, leaving their defeated but surviving enemies behind. Inside the safe house, Yami, a red-haired girl, was resting while waiting for Zhang Yi. When he arrived, he asked her to get ready to meet a new friend. Yami hesitated and asked if this was his fiancé, but Zhang Yi simply handed her new clothes and told her to come downstairs. She dressed up and prepared to meet her supposed rival. Zhang Yi seemed excited, walking ahead with the red-haired girl following behind. When Yami and Yokier saw each other, both looked shocked. Yokier approached Yami with an annoyed expression, as if ready to argue. Sensing the tension, Zhang Yi quickly stepped in and asked if they already knew each other. Yokier then revealed that Yami was her cousin, which took Zhang Yi by surprise. He immediately tried to ease the situation. Yami requested that their relationship remain undisclosed but then questioned whether it truly mattered or if it was just a temporary arrangement. Yokier expressed her discontent toward Yami, believing that she had tarnished their family name by working in the entertainment industry. Additionally, Yami's poor acting skills had further damaged the family's reputation. Yokier felt that Yami's appearance, used as a marketing tool, was vulgar and had made their family a laughingstock. Zhang Yi intervened, stating that the past was behind them and that they needed to live in harmony now. He then introduced their new home and assigned responsibilities to each of them. When they saw the indoor farming area, both Yokier and Yami grew excited about taking care of it. Yami thanked Zhang Yi for keeping her secret and suggested that they continue hiding their connection. Zhang Yi agreed, but deep down, he wondered how he would manage their complicated relationship. As a gesture of gratitude, Yami offered to cook. However, upon checking the kitchen, she realized that they had run out of ingredients. As she searched for supplies, Zhang Yi approached her and whispered something in her ear, making her blush and wonder what he was up to. Ignoring her reaction, Zhang Yi retrieved food from his dimensional storage, explaining that this would be their way of eating from now on. Despite already knowing about Zhang Yi's abilities, Yami was still impressed. Zhang Yi playfully patted Yami's back and eagerly waited for the meal. When the food was ready, Yami called everyone to eat. Yokier was the first to taste it and immediately complained that it was too salty. Embarrassed, Yami admitted that she had trouble focusing due to everything that had happened. Noticing the tension between the cousins, Zhang Yi decided to give Yokier more attention. He fed her with care, making her smile proudly in front of her cousin. Although Yami pretended not to care, she still showed subtle concern. Later that night, as they lay in bed, Yokier asked Zhang Yi who was better between them. Zhang Yi gently stroked her head and reassured her that she was the most important to him, not only because she was his, but also because she was the most beautiful. He kissed her forehead and embraced her before they fell asleep together. In that sweet moment, Zhang Yi reflected that love was insignificant, what truly mattered was personal gain. In the following days, Zhang Yi continued his archery training. Suddenly, his phone rang. He ignored the call and blocked the number, but moments later, the same number called again, irritating him. Even after blocking it once more, the calls kept coming. Eventually, his phone answered automatically. On the other end, a voice claimed to know a great deal about him, including his birth date and other personal details. The caller even knew about his house and threatened to expose the information unless Zhang Yi met their demands: food, clothing, and drinks. Zhang Yi tried to downplay the importance of the information, but the caller, a hacker, insisted that they had proof of him stealing from the city's warehouses. They threatened to inform the authorities if he refused to comply, putting him in danger. Zhang Yi realized that the hacker had likely already taken control of his home's security systems. Though furious, he listened as the hacker demanded that the requested items be delivered to Villa 302. If Zhang Yi tried to avoid it, all his information would be leaked. After the call ended, Zhang Yi was filled with rage. He immediately informed Yokier about the threat and the possible danger ahead. Realizing that their location and personal information had been exposed, Zhang Yi and Yokier now felt threatened. Yokier pointed out that gossip about famous people was often unreliable, but when it came to specific details about an unknown individual, this hacker posed a serious danger. Zhang Yi expressed his desire to eliminate the hacker immediately, but he worried that their data would still be leaked even if the hacker was taken down. Yokier tried to think of a solution and recalled that tech companies used to hire people to eliminate hackers to prevent data breaches. However, they always left a backdoor to ensure that the information could still be leaked if anything went wrong. Zhang Yi realized that this hacker likely had a similar strategy, meaning that simply killing him wouldn't be enough. Yokier suggested taking a break to think things through, but Zhang Yi insisted that the issue couldn't be delayed. As Yami passed by on her way to the cultivation room, Zhang Yi explained the situation to her and asked for her opinion. Yami compared it to how people spread rumors about celebrities on the internet. Suddenly, Zhang Yi had an idea. He thought about flooding the media with false information, turning the truth into nothing more than a rumor. Seeing Yokier and Yami's confusion, he told them he needed to prepare everything first before explaining further. In the control room, Zhang Yi received another call from the hacker, who asked if he had prepared the requested items. Furious, Zhang Yi threatened to kill him if not for the information he possessed. The hacker laughed and warned that if anything happened to him, Zhang Yi's personal information would be sent to every phone in the city within 24 hours. Zhang Yi realized he had only 24 hours to act. He decided to play along for now and ended the call. His plan was to spread widespread rumors about the warehouse theft across all media channels, burying the truth beneath layers of lies so that no one would believe it. After setting his plan in motion, Zhang Yi grabbed his backpack and declared that it was time to take out the trash. He placed the bag at a predetermined location and moved far away, hiding behind a tree with his rifle aimed at the pickup spot. Zhang Yi then messaged the hacker, stating that the delivery had been made and that he had left the area. However, after waiting for a long time, there was no response, and no one appeared to take the bag. He considered calling or sending another message to ask if the package had been picked up, but he decided against it to avoid raising suspicion. Time passed, and finally, the door opened. Someone stepped out to collect the bag. Zhang Yi fired with a determination he had never felt before. In an instant, the bullet pierced the man's head. Without hesitation, Zhang Yi rushed to the location and ensured his enemy was eliminated with a few additional shots. After confirming the area was secure, he entered the house to search for valuable items. Amidst his search, he found a laptop. At first, he considered destroying it, but realizing it might contain important information, he decided to store it in his dimensional storage instead. With his mission complete, Zhang Yi left the place and returned home, feeling relieved. Yokier was cooking, and after they finished their meal, Zhang Yi asked about any new messages on their phones. They showed him a flood of messages about a warehouse theft at Walmart. Zhang Yi then revealed that he had spread false information to bury the real truth beneath a web of lies. He had programmed the messages to be sent out daily to ensure the misinformation would dominate public perception. Yami was impressed by his clever strategy, noting that celebrity scandals often faded away when a bigger issue took over. She praised Zhang Yi's intelligence. However, Yokier remained concerned about the risk of being tracked, even with their security measures in place. Zhang Yi admitted that as long as technology existed, they would always be vulnerable. Despite their worries, both girls trusted that Zhang Yi would find a way to handle any future threats. Still, Zhang Yi couldn't shake off the unease of being unprepared for an unexpected attack. Determined to reinforce their defenses, he assured the girls that he could protect them, but they all needed to take action. Sensing something was off, Zhang Yi glanced at the red-haired girl, who appeared shy. He gently patted her head before announcing that they wouldn't rely solely on technology, they would set physical traps as well. Zhang Yi explained that while their security system was prepared for large-scale threats, it was still lacking against human intruders. Therefore, they needed additional traps to counter potential attackers. Both girls grew excited and were eager to follow his instructions. Zhang Yi then retrieved wooden planks and nails, preparing to craft the first line of defense. Together, they worked diligently, hammering nails into the wooden boards and burying them beneath the snow. They also set up various other traps, but Zhang Yi realized that if their enemies used equipment to dig them out, their efforts would be wasted. To counter this, he decided to embed explosives around the traps. If anyone attempted to dig them up, they would be taken out instantly. Additionally, he concealed grenades with tripwires that would detonate if triggered. After their relentless efforts, the perimeter of their home was now fortified. Every trap was carefully placed and ready for any intruders who dared to approach. As they returned home, Yami asked when the intruders would arrive so she could witness the traps in action. Zhang Yi replied that, ideally, they would never have to use them. Sitting on the sofa, he added that no sane person would attempt to attack a place filled with traps, especially when everyone was already trying to avoid trouble. Zhang Yi then installed a mechanical lock on the front door, despite already having a digital one, an extra measure to enhance their security. Yami felt that joining Zhang Yi had been the best decision of her life, as she now felt safer and happier. Zhang Yi also thought they needed a digital security expert. He remembered Xin, his tech-savvy younger sister, though they hadn't heard from her in a while. While Zhang Yi was intrigued by Xin's skills, he knew there were more pressing matters to handle. In the following days, Zhang Yi dedicated himself to refining his archery skills, significantly improving his shooting precision and attack power. Testing his abilities on moving targets, he began to feel almost invincible. However, he soon realized that such power drained his energy quickly. Fortunately, with his ample food reserves, he felt free to push his limits. Meanwhile, at a classified military base, the facility's commander was growing increasingly concerned about their dwindling power supply. His secretary entered the room, presenting the latest intelligence report. The report included information about a recent warehouse robbery, naming Zhang Yi as the primary suspect. Although skeptical at first, the commander decided to launch an investigation into Zhang Yi. At the same time, in the castle of Shu village, Chunlei, who had previously lost to Zhang Yi, fell into despair upon learning of his alleged involvement in the robbery. Driven by curiosity, Chunlei began investigating and came to a realization: Zhang Yi's ability to transfer objects into an alternate space might have been the key to stealing from the warehouse. Feeling even more powerless, Chunlei collapsed in frustration, wondering if Zhang Yi was the true protagonist of this world while he was merely a side character. Accepting that he could not defeat Zhang Yi, Chunlei decided to warn the villagers, especially his grandfather, about Zhang Yi's strength. He detailed how Zhang Yi had overpowered him and was now suspected of stealing vital supplies. Instead of being alarmed, Chunlei's grandfather was inspired. He believed that if they could steal from Zhang Yi, they would never go hungry again. Despite Chunlei's warnings about the dangers, his grandfather dismissed Zhang Yi as nothing more than an overconfident guardian. Some time later, back at Zhang Yi's home, the atmosphere remained peaceful and warm. Zhang Yi sat at the dining table, enjoying a meal with his wives. The peace was shattered when Yami heard a strange noise near the window. Zhang Yi remained calm and decided to investigate. Using binoculars, he observed a group of people approaching the house. With his sniper rifle in hand, he watched them closely, deciding to let the traps do their work. One of the intruders stepped onto a hidden spike trap, screaming in agony. Another rushed to help him, but their leader warned them about the possibility of more traps and ordered everyone to proceed with caution. The group advanced carefully, using sticks to probe the ground ahead. After a while, they successfully navigated past the traps. But just as one of them reached to disarm a trap, they triggered a nearly invisible tripwire connected to a grenade. The explosion ripped through the group, sending shrapnel flying. Even those who weren't caught in the initial blast were injured by the debris. Writhing in pain, some fell onto other hidden explosives, setting off a chain reaction of detonations. When the smoke cleared, many were wounded or trapped. Fear spread among them, and they hesitated, realizing they couldn't face Zhang Yi without their leader's grandson, the one with superhuman abilities. Zhang Yi continued observing through his scope, analyzing their reactions. The tribal leader, now cornered, remembered his grandson's warning but refused to retreat. Instead, he roared at his men, urging them to fight for the wealth inside Zhang Yi's home. Handing out binoculars, he showed them the food and valuables inside, tempting them despite their fear. Even though some hesitated, their leader's threats forced them into action. They began using long poles to trigger the remaining traps from a distance. The strategy worked. Step by step, they cleared a path toward the house. Confidence grew among them. Inside, Yami and Yokier watched from the window. Yami's expression was troubled as she questioned whether they would survive if the enemies got too close. Yokier, on the other hand, scoffed at their stupidity, certain they were no match for Zhang Yi. As the moment arrived, Zhang Yi pressed a button, remotely detonating the remaining explosives. The controlled explosions annihilated the remaining invaders, leaving behind a massive scene of destruction. Zhang Yi felt no remorse. They should have retreated the moment they realized the land was trapped. But as the dust settled, Yokier, who had been excited before, now looked uneasy. Yami turned away, feeling sick from the sight of the carnage. On the battlefield, the old leader collapsed to his knees, staring at the devastation. His voice trembled as he whispered, "He's a demon, this is not fair." He regretted the deaths of all those who had perished because of his orders. He only wanted to secure supplies for his people. Zhang Yi then put away his rifle and switched to a bow and arrows, utilizing the new skills he had been training. He fired 3 arrows simultaneously, hitting 3 enemies with deadly precision. The attack was followed by a series of rapid shots, each one striking true and eliminating more of his foes. The old leader, who had witnessed everything, could only lament and beg Zhang Yi to end his life. However, before Zhang Yi could do so, a sudden ice tornado emerged, obstructing his vision. Zhang Yi swiftly switched to a long-range rifle, enabling him to engage his enemies from a greater distance. Chun Lei ordered his people to retreat while maintaining the ice tornado as a shield. The wounded were carried away, while Chun himself stood firm, prepared to fight. Remaining calm, Zhang Yi had already devised another plan. He put on a protective vest and informed his wives that he would return soon. Chun believed that things would turn out fine, but suddenly, a snowmobile rushed in at high speed. From the vehicle's window, Zhang Yi fired at the attackers. Panic ensued as they struggled to escape, their lives hanging by a thread. Even Chun's life was now at risk. One of Chun's allies helped him retreat as Zhang Yi continued his relentless pursuit. Driving the snowmobile closer, he fired once again from the window, further thinning their numbers. Fear gripped Chun Lei. He began to doubt that any of them would survive. In desperation, he ordered his people to abandon the corpses they had been carrying for burial, prioritizing their escape. Though reluctant, his men obeyed, as honoring the dead was an important tradition. They discarded the bodies one by one, hoping to slow Zhang Yi down. He maneuvered skillfully, avoiding the falling corpses while keeping his aim steady. His shots continued to land with deadly accuracy, taking down more enemies. Realizing that he was running out of options, Chun Lei used his powers to create deep cracks in the ice, obstructing the path of Zhang Yi's snowmobile. The vehicle became stuck in the frozen terrain. Zhang Yi, undeterred, continued firing at the fleeing enemies until they had gotten too far away. He was certain they wouldn't dare return after this massacre. Pulling his snowmobile free from the ice, he drove past the scattered bodies on the ground and made his way home. Upon arriving, Zhang Yi noticed Yang Mi, who stood in shock, struggling to process what had just happened. Meanwhile, Yokier remained calm and asked if Zhang Yi had managed to defeat the person with special abilities. Zhang Yi explained that the man was clever and had successfully escaped along with a few others. Elsewhere, Chun-Lei returned to his village with the remaining survivors. As soon as they arrived, the tribe members began to judge him, blaming him for not participating in the battle from the start, which had resulted in many deaths. An elder interrupted, reminding them that this was not the time for blame. He instructed Chun-Lei to meet with his grandfather. Upon entering the house, the village chief told him that the responsibility for the tribe's loss should fall on him, not on Chun-Lei. Chun-Lei's grandfather, with tears in his eyes, said that he was tired and ready to die. With those final words, he passed away. News of his death spread quickly. The villagers rushed to the scene, shocked and devastated by the loss of their beloved leader. Chun-Lei left his grandfather's house in deep confusion, unsure of how to take care of himself, let alone lead others. Amidst his uncertainty, he encountered a girl who introduced herself as Shu Lily. She thanked him, saying that because of Chun-Lei, her father had survived the last battle. Chun felt awkward but soon realized that he should not blame himself for the deaths of others. In fact, he started to feel like a hero who had saved many lives. After their brief meeting, something inside him changed. He began to think about the future, especially one that included the girl. Determined, Chun-Lei returned home and started planning ways to protect his village from Zhang Yi, whom he now considered a great threat. With renewed resolve, he immediately began designing defenses to safeguard his people. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi was preparing new traps to deal with anyone who dared to attack him, determined to put an end to the problem once and for all. After working tirelessly, exhaustion overtook him. Two of his wives came to help him relax. As he rested, his phone suddenly rang. He answered the call and heard a voice introducing himself as Chun from Shu village. Chun expressed his gratitude to Zhang Yi, saying that thanks to him, he had met someone he loved. He also wished to make peace with Zhang Yi after realizing that they had once attempted to attack him. Zhang Yi asked if they understood that they could never defeat him. Chun admitted their mistake and offered to do anything as an apology on behalf of his people. Zhang Yi then asked who was speaking for Shu village and how Chun-Lei could prove that he truly represented them. Chun-Lei revealed that he was the one with special abilities who had fought against Zhang Yi twice before. Zhang Yi agreed to make peace but demanded that Chun-Lei prove his sincerity by meeting in person. Chun-Lei refused, hoping that peace could be achieved without a face-to-face meeting. However, Zhang Yi firmly stated that if Chun-Lei did not comply, Shu village would become his enemy. He gave Chun-Lei a deadline to come to his house by 2:30 p.m. Without waiting for a response, Zhang Yi ended the call. Chun-Lei felt cornered and terrified, convinced that he would die without ever having truly enjoyed life. Meanwhile, Zhang Yi believed that Chun-Lei's abilities held great potential, something he could use for his own benefit. Exhausted from setting up traps, Zhang Yi retreated to his room to rest. As Yang arrived to keep him company, Zhang Yi noticed Chun-Lei approaching alone. At first, Zhang Yi intended to eliminate him, but seeing how Chun-Lei kept stumbling, he began to doubt his own threat and decided to talk instead. Chun-Lei called Zhang Yi, saying he was stuck because of the traps. Zhang Yi went to meet him. After their meeting, Chun-Lei introduced himself and stated his purpose for negotiating, reminding Zhang Yi that the attack had been initiated by his own people, who owed Zhang Yi their lives. Chun-Lei admitted this and apologized. Zhang Yi then asked who had ordered the attack. Chun-Lei revealed that it was his grandfather, who had already passed away. Zhang Yi found it too convenient and asked if Chun-Lei didn't want revenge. However, Chun-Lei replied that he felt no real loss. His grandfather was the only person who had ever mattered to him, and the deaths of others didn't make him feel sorrow or vengeance because he had lived his entire life in isolation. Chun-Lei expressed admiration for Zhang Yi's ability to face so many enemies and acknowledged his strength. Zhang Yi firmly stated that he had not yet forgiven their mistakes. As a price for his mercy, he demanded that Chun-Lei work for him. Though Chun-Lei wanted to show gratitude with a hug, Zhang Yi stopped him and made it clear that there were rules to follow. With a mischievous thought, Chun-Lei jokingly asked if Zhang Yi wanted his body. Zhang Yi responded sternly, telling him to stop. Instead, Zhang Yi gave Chun-Lei an action figure as a gift and promised protection for his family, if he proved useful. On their journey to a new location, Chun-Lei asked if the action figure had the ability to control time within a storage space, which made Zhang Yi wonder if Chun-Lei's powers were somehow related to time manipulation. Eventually, they arrived at a site where Chun-Lei's abilities would be tested. Using his power over ice, Chun-Lei successfully cleared a path to a gas station buried under the snow. After several minutes of struggling, Zhang Yi saw great potential in Chun-Lei's abilities. He thought that with such power, Chun-Lei could make it easier to obtain resources and store them. As a reward, Zhang Yi gave him chocolate, realizing that ability users depended on their energy levels. Zhang Yi then entered the gas station to collect all the supplies inside. After some time, he returned. Chun-Lei praised Zhang Yi's ability, considering it extraordinary. Being able to store anything was incredibly useful in the present time. Zhang Yi then admitted that Chunlei also possessed an impressive power. He had never considered using such an ability to excavate buried items from beneath the snow.